Good day, everybody. I am Katie Mosier. I work at SAP on our mobile product marketing team, and I'll be the moderator for our webcast today. I'd like to introduce our speakers for today's webcast. We are honored to have Mark Rossen. He is an enterprise architect for Snohomish PUD, which is a large public utility north of Seattle. And we have Robert Straubinger. He is part of the Utility Industry Business Unit team here at SAP. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to you, Robert.
Sure, thank you. Couple of things we want to discuss today. First, what are the business priorities for utilities, challenges, strengths, and how does that relate to the value chain and to people, employees, partners, and customers? Then we hear from Mark from the Snohomish PUD how they developed a mobile strategy. And the interesting thing is they didn't do it with our help, but they came back and said, here's what we think we need in terms of mobility. And then I'll provide a brief look at the SAP mobile portfolio. So we look at assets and field service employees and customers. And that includes an update. We'll look at the roadmap for the work manager. We have a number of exciting enhancements coming up. And then we'll hear from the Snohomish PUD about the experience when implementing a mobile consumer app. So let's get started. So here's what we see as the current business priorities for utilities companies from a global perspective. First, optimize the energy supply chain. So this includes fuel supply, service parts, and the energy portfolio. Then maximize operational efficiencies for plants and grids. We're in a very asset-intensive industry, so this is all about the asset performance, operations, maintenance, and the related risks. Next, the energy revolution. So this relates to smart meter operations, data management, and also demand-side management and the environmental resources management. And last, the customer experience, which includes multi-channel marketing, sales, and customer service, and the entire bill-to-cash processes. So this is also how we, from SAP Solutions, structure and present our industry portfolio, the entire portfolio. These are the top 4 value drivers for the utilities industry global. If you want to read more about that, just Google SAP Solution Explorer, and that'll get you to a page, and then select utilities, and you can browse through our value map. So next, let's have a look at some of the unique challenges related to that. The challenges, utilities need to keep the assets running. So whenever an asset fails, the utility actually loses money. Whether it's a large or small outage, the impact can be very big on the ecosystem. Then many utilities worry about their network. Some regions see a strong growth in demand. In other regions, renewables have caused a huge shift on the supply side. For example, through distributed generation from wind or solar, we see a lot of that in Europe. That puts more strain on the network. Then, a large part of the workforce is distributed and often remote. The service and repair crews, contractors, they are mobile, and they require up-to-date information as much as possible in real time, and you want to integrate that to the enterprise systems. So now think about it. How should a technician receive and update information with today's technology? I've never seen anyone printing something from Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and almost no one prints emails anymore. So why should a technician in the field receive a printed work order or complete a paper-based checklist? It should be all on a mobile device. So then utilities need to follow rules and regulations for the environment and for personal safety, for example. And the ecosystem includes a large number of contractors or enterprise customers with whom data is exchanged on a regular basis. here are some of the key trends we see globally. Capacity, the consumption is up, and there's no stopping around the world. Some experts say that within 30 years, energy demand will be up by 30% on a global level. But the capacity is limited, both in generation and T&D, and the infrastructure is aging. So assets commissioning, maintenance, upgrades, repair, that is critical. Social and economic trends, many customers have a choice of suppliers. In most cases, they go for the lowest price. And then customers are online. They're socially connected, and they use mobile apps, text, Twitter, and so on. And they expect the utility to be there as well and provide customer service. At the same time, the utility wants to engage the customer, not only for loyalty, but also for programs like energy efficiency. On the technology side, smart meters, smart grids, they have taken off. And this is both good and bad. It's bad for you as a utility because it requires to have people and technology in place to sustain the complex system. Political and regulatory trends, they show that in many regions, utilities are further limited in how they can bring new generation plants onto the grid or what they can charge for energy and related costs. So these trends cause the utility to act or react. When we boil this down, we realize we come back to a few key topics to focus on when we discuss mobility. Operational excellence for the plant, the grid, and employee productivity. Then improve the customer experience and manage the energy supply and demand. What you can also see by now, when we explore mobility, we do not start with a technical discussion. In the past, mobility often started with the hardware talk, what kind of rubberized or ruggedized devices could be used and what the specs were. That was about 10, 15 years ago. That then shifted more to the software-centric talk about middleware and data orchestration and so on about 5 years ago. What we can do today is we start looking at the business priorities, put a business value against scenarios, look at the user needs, and we do no longer need to worry about the technical feasibilities. We don't ignore the technical part on mobile devices and platforms and data synchronization, but we know that the technology can now virtually support any scenario at reasonable costs. So what a utility needs to do when developing a mobile strategy is to evaluate where can mobility best accelerate or virtualize or even transform certain business processes. And from here we often go to the use cases or the benefits discussion. So some examples how utilities benefit from mobile solutions. In field service, mobility can help to shorten work cycles. Planned or unplanned outages can be restored quicker, and we see more productive assets. Reliability and customer satisfaction goes up. We have several customer testimonials that show how after a mobile solution was rolled out to the field, more orders per day are completed and there's less non-productive time. Then employees, managers, executives, they can use mobile solutions for sales, marketing, reporting, analytics, or simply for things like requests, approvals, time entry, and so on. It's faster, it's more accurate, it's real time, and it also reduces the cost. And the utility can get closer to customers and partners. So whether it's a complaint, or an outage situation, or you promote something, don't underestimate just providing a very simple mobile communication channel to the customer or to the partner can make a huge difference. Whether it's an app or a mobile web page or automated texting capabilities, that can make a big difference. So with that, I want to pause here and hand over to Mark to hear how the Snohomish POD developed a mobile strategy.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning, everyone. Well, as Robert pointed out, it's no longer about an IT technology issue. While we didn't forget about those issues around design and development and deployment of mobile apps, they all have their own unique challenges from an IT perspective. Any project without user acceptance and user buy-in is not going to be successful. So our strategy was to go out and look at our employee base and do what I consider user design. We wanted to interview them. We wanted to see how they currently do their jobs and how could mobility help in doing those specific tasks that they have to do on a day-to-day basis. Well, we don't have a lot of resources, and one of the ways that we tried to figure out how we were going to target specific groups was to do employee segmentation. So very similar to the way that utilities do customer segmentation into different consumer groups that consume energy in a different way, we wanted to look at our employees and use the same technique to segment our customers into personas. Not to be confused with the SAP personas, that's a UI acceleration, but to figure out what were the different groups that we had in our utility and how could we help them with mobility. This is just a little slide about Snohomish, and kind of just give you a background. We're a SAP shop for the last 3 years, running CRMB, the customer billing solution. And we are just in the process of doing our CRM upgrade to the latest version of CRM Enhancement Pack 3, and we are implementing demand-side management for energy efficiency. And then last year, we made the decision to go wall-to-wall SAP, getting rid of our existing ERP solutions, and moving to SAP across the board, and not just a SAP for ERP or SAP for EAM or SuccessFactors for HR, but everything, including implementing extended ECM with OpenText. We're using Click Scheduling, and the entire SAP Mobility Suite, which includes not only the Cyclo piece for field, Fiori for on-premise employee connected tasks, the complete Sybase and Wired platform for mobile development, should we decide to go down that track, Afaria for device management, and then finally the utility customer engagement, the UCE customer-facing mobile app. So we're all in from a SAP mobility process. So we've got the technology. Now the question is how do we get the people? So what we did is we did something called personas. And now personas is a process. It's an interview process where you determine what insights you want to gain around a particular employee base. You create a set of questions that tell you about those insights, and then you do a very informal interview. We actually brought in an outside contractor to do the interviews because we didn't want people to feel like it was their boss asking or whatever. We wanted them to be totally independent. We told them during the interview process that they would be totally anonymous. And it worked out really well, really gave us some insights, some stuff that we really didn't even know was going on in the field and is definitely influencing our mobility development. So this is just a list of the insights that you possibly can gain during the interview process. One of the most important ones that actually didn't have anything to do with mobility and actually was more around the employees was change management. How do people like to learn? What's the best way I can train you on a change to your business process? So personas can really gain some insights into core groups within your utility. The process looks like this. You basically create a set of identifiers, things that reference those insights, and then you create questions around those identifiers to try to pigeonhole people into certain groups. Once we did this exercise as a group and brainstormed all the different potential questions that we could ask, we then consolidated it into a survey and then sat down one-on-one with individual groups to have the discussion. Now, the question is how do you can't interview all of your employees, so what do you do? So what we did is we created what we call notional personas. So how do you group? How do you think people are grouped? I grouped all of my warehouse people together with my transportation people because they both have mobility aspects, but they're all on premise. Versus my servicemen, which are working alone, versus my crews, which are working together, versus my office workers, and I used the job titles of the entire company to be able to group people into buckets. Those are what they call your notional personas. And we ended up with 27 different notional personas out of all of the job descriptions. And then we then pulled people that were in those notional personas to make sure we were getting a cross-section of everybody we thought we wanted to interview. And then we went through the questions. And in the process, what you end up with is finding out the commonalities. People were answering the same questions in the same way, and you end up whittling down from these 27 notional personas down to, in this case, we ended up with 4 notional personas. So you end up with a bunch of information, and then you consolidate it into 2 slides. This is the first slide. Meet Frank. He's our field operations worker. As you can see from the top, this is 32% of our workforce, but he's mobile 90% of the time. And we have, kind of quotes from Frank. Of course, Frank is a made-up name representing the field operator people that we talk to, but these are people who are working in the field. And you can see from this slide, they've got certain challenges they have to grade. So all the questions that are around their, what are their problems, what are their pain points associated with doing the work, quick snapshot of what applications they're using, just to make sure that we kind of know, okay, these are the applications where if we were to bring mobility to it, that would help, or at least maintain mobility for the applications they already have mobility for. And then needs and wants. What can we make sure that if we deliver on those needs and wants from a mobile platform perspective, we'll get user adoption? We'll be making sure that Frank is happy. So this is kind of the first summary piece. And then the next slide is more details associated with Frank's work style. All right? Change management. This was really valuable, trying to figure out how do we deliver this change. I mean, mobility is a huge disruptive change for the business. It changes business processes. It changes how people do work. It definitely is disruptive, and we want to make sure that we can minimize that disruption and make sure we're doing a great job at managing the change from a people perspective. So knowing how Frank handles change was important. You have the day in the life, so you can kind of get a feel for his schedule and what that looks like. Again, we're looking for insights into design. So the day in the life tells us when do we have to make sure we get the information to his mobile device. Does he need a store and forward capability, or does he not need that, and can he just be online all the time? And then down below, the key scenarios. Rob already kind of talked about use cases. You can create whatever kind of key scenarios you want, and then you essentially map those mobility scenarios into those use cases. And then devices needed. We all know that from a mobile development perspective, lots of different, everything from tablets to iPhones to iPads to toughbooks. I mean, there's a myriad of different devices out there. So knowing what Frank's work style is was important to us to be able to figure out what devices we were going to have to support. So that's Frank's overall portfolio. We got basically summarized it in 2 slides. And then we have 3 other personas. I'll just quickly cover their highlights. I won't go to their second slides. Meet Mike. He's a mobile office worker. He's only 11% of our workforce, but he's mobile 60% of the time. And of course, these are people that we want to make sure they're usually managers. You can see by their example roles, they're managers. They're people who we want to make sure are getting in quickly, doing the tasks that they need to get into. This is for managers. We're targeting Fiori for approvals and for things that they just quickly need to get in and out of SAP and not have to actually log in and go through detailed training on how to use the back office. So very similar scenario. You can see the format's exactly the same. It's just the answers are different. Meet Tom, our technical specialist, 12% of our workforce, but mobile 25% of the time. So again, we kind of looked at this and we go, well, these people aren't necessarily a huge chunk of our users, but they represent a large piece of our people who are mobile. And then finally, Mary. All right, Mary's our office worker, and even she needs some kind of mobile solution, maybe 5% of the time. So again, don't leave out the people who you think don't use mobile. I would have said Mary has no. I would have said maybe she didn't need any mobile. Looking at the kinds of people, the kinds of roles that we had, but bottom line is she does need it. So. That's personas, and with that, I'll turn it back over to Robert.
All right, thank you. So I really like the process that you went through and the results. So when then the Snohomish POD came to SAP, they said, so can you show me what's your mobile portfolio, what's your strategy, what you have? Let me go to the next slide. So here's our mobile portfolio. We made mobility a central pillar in our strategy more than 3 years ago, and we made huge investments, and we became a leader in enterprise mobility. So now we think we have the most complete mobile portfolio in our industry, and this slide also explains what our mobile strategy is. So first, we have mobile applications and analytics. So this is, for example, the business objects mobile, or the work manager, or the productivity apps. Then we have a mobile platform or a mobile application platform, and we're about to release the SMP 3.0. And then we have mobile security. So this is about mobile device management, mobile application management, mobile documents, or a mobile store that you could run for your employees. So this is how they would access certain mobile applications or download them. So for different roles, or how Mark described for different personas in your organization, we can show you where we have standard mobile solutions, and then also how you can run or build solutions and secure solutions with the tools that we have. And in today's call, I want to quickly highlight just 4 mobile solutions for some key business priorities. So one for the asset and field service, one for bill to cash, one for employee productivity, and then one for the consumer. So the first one, slide advances, yeah. This is a work manager. So the SAP Work Manager came with the Cycle portfolio. It's in the market for many years. Large number of utilities are using it. And I think if we refer back to Mark's personas presentation, this is the app for Frank. He's a field service technician or maintenance worker. And the Work Manager mobile solution supports the end-to-end business process for work orders, service orders, and notification handling. So this is both for long and short cycle work. The the mobile application receives all the information required for a job, including operations, work history, locations, or notes. Then you can record time or material directly in the app. The app has full offline capabilities, and it's also platform independent, so it can run on many different devices. The Work Manager integrates with SAP ERP EAM or IBM Maximo, and there's also a metering component that's useful for distribution companies. So this part integrates with SAP ISU, and it supports then device installation or exchanges, meter reading. It can take meter readings, validate meter readings, or it supports disconnections. So next, I want to briefly look at the roadmap. We're very excited about the upcoming enhancements for November. We'll get a number of UI enhancements, a number of additional languages, and attachment support, both for upload and download. The app will also support operation rounds within the Work Manager app. There will be an improved MRS integration. MRS is the SAP multi-resource scheduling tool, and we will integrate the linear asset management that we have. So then in Q1, we plan to deliver a native GIS integration. We are in active collaboration with Esri, and this allows the mobile user to access spatial data within the app. For example, to see assets, to see locations, or to see work orders that are nearby. That integration is possible with the new Open UI. That's a technical component which allows to embed other applications. And then in Q2 next year, we plan to deliver crew management and then a native visual enterprise integration, which is the 3D visualization, and we will enhance the GIS integration. And we plan to deliver a periodic meter reading for utilities as standard functionality. So next, I want to briefly highlight a special mobile solution from our partner Prologa. Prologa is an SAP-endorsed business solution provider. On-site billing for utilities makes it possible to create a bill on the spot right after the meter reading takes place. So the meter reader produces a printout of the bill within seconds and puts it then into the mailbox of the customer. So this is similar to when you return a rental car at a major location, and they take kilometers or miles, and they hand you the final bill right at the car. This solution is highly integrated into ISU, and it works both in online and in offline mode. So what this shows is how a mobile solution can help to transform a business process. In this case, the utility has shifted the billing process from batch to real time on the spot and has eliminated the cost for mailing and postage. In some regions, this is very significant, and the example here is from Brazil. So next, let's have a brief look at Fiori. Mark mentioned it. Fiori is an app for every employee. It's called Productivity Apps. It's actually a collection of 25 apps. It's a bundle. Fiori is the easiest and fastest way to enter time, submit requests, approvals, and much, much more. The design theme was keeping simple things simple. Fiori connects directly to the SAP backend via NetWeaver Gateway. It's an online app, and one of the best features is that the same app runs on a desktop, on a tablet, and on a phone. and it is the same user experience. We call that responsive design. I encourage you to explore Fiori. Just Google SAP Fiori. And then the last app I want to look at is our SAP Utilities Customer Engagement. This is a consumer app for the utilities industry. We built, so this is the mobile customer self-service that integrates to SAP ISU and CRM for utilities. The functionality includes bill presentment and payment, account management, service requests, meter readings, start and stop service, and a few more functions. And we also included an outage management integration. We worked closely with the customer council, and they said you really need to put that in for certain markets. So the mobile app connects via the mobile platform directly to an OMS system, and then we can show the outages on a map as an overlay or in a table format. We released that app about a year ago, and we have a few customers already. And the Snohomish PUD is one of the customers of that app, and they're currently putting it in. So with that, I wanted to hand it back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Robert. So just like I talked about personas before, we've already done our customer segmentation as far as our external customers rather than our employees. We know that a third of our customers are internet connected. Even though we have a lot of rural customers, we definitely have at least a third that are interacting via the internet as far as paying their bills, as far as going to our website. And for that third, if they're interacting on the internet, you can pretty much guarantee they have a smartphone or some type of mobile device. So our plan was to how do we go after and support those customers. That said, we're a small shop, and we are definitely buy versus build, and we had to figure out, okay, well, how do we go after the customer market? Without trying to, have 6 people, 2 for every single platform that's out there, and develop our own app. And I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into trying to build versus buy your apps. So I broke this presentation a little bit into, for those people that are on the call that are IT people or those people that are business people, and I wanted to talk about how we brought the two groups together. So I already talked about we're a buy versus build shop. We wanted to be able to go after the consumer market, get out there with a smartphone app just like all the rest of the utilities are doing, and how do we engage the customers. If we can't develop ourselves, we have to buy it. And luckily, SAP has, as part of their mobile portfolio, a customer-facing application called UCE. The business wanted to, we're just kicking off our wall-to-wall project, and the business was looking for how do we convince people, since we're already an SAP shop, that SAP is more than just the back-office user interface. So we wanted to make sure that people knew that SAP is ready for the new generation, and that there's a SAP UI that doesn't look like the back office, and we can all get behind new user interfaces and getting people into SAP, but with definitely a new look and feel. So those are the two things that the business wanted to accomplish. From an IT perspective, we wanted to limit the number of users. We just wanted to get some limited functionality out the door, account balance, see a trend, definitely outage, a link to our outage management system that Robert talked about. The business view was, well, we've got a lot of other stuff going on. We just want to minimize the risk. And change management and the marketing campaign that would go along with launching a customer-facing mobile app for everybody was a little too much right this second. So we wanted to kind of walk before we run. The other thing the business wanted to do is, again, when I say SAP Mobility, the business is like, okay, well, what is that? Because there's UCE, there's Cyclo, there's SAP, there's Fiori. There's lots of things that's part of all of the SAP Mobility solution set. So part of the business's view was let's get UCE out there so people can differentiate UCE from the different use cases. So our pilot. IT just wanted to flesh out the architecture, make sure we can stand it up, get it out the door, and also provide SAP. SAP's in the development cycle here. So we're on version 2.04 that we downloaded from the Apple Store and Google Store last week. 2.1 is in development, so we want to we're early adopters here, so we have the opportunity to be able to influence what's going into the product and talk about the different use cases that we want to enable on the platform. The business, of course, wanted to test out the solution and emphasize the fact that we're all in from an SAP perspective. So the pilot's gone extremely well. We stood it up in a week, which is just amazing from a mobile perspective. For those of you that have done mobile development, start to finish, we were able to install the back-end RFC connections into SAP to provide the capabilities, stand up the server, which facilitates the mobile connection, hooked it in through our web proxy, and we were essentially ready to go. We created some user IDs with passwords on them, and I happen to be a customer that's also an employee, so I'm like the target audience for the first rollout. So all of our employees are essentially that are also customers are going to have an opportunity to roll this out starting next month. So we're very excited about the pilot rollout and about how smooth and easy it's gone so far. And with that, I will turn it back over to Katie.
Great. Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Robert. Now we are going to do some question and answer. So if you haven't had a chance to ask a question, please do so by clicking the Ask the Question tab at the bottom of your screen. You can type in your question and then hit the Submit button. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can in the time we have left. First question for you, Mark. Did Snohomish create and execute personas itself or with the help of an industry consultant?
We actually, given the fact that we're only 40 miles from Redmond, we actually brought in Microsoft, and they were very helpful in having to do this persona work and this persona analysis. And we plan to actually use the methodology for lots of stuff going forward. User design, basically doing this process of actually talking to the people who are using the application and figuring out how they want to use it is an important component of our wall-to-wall SAP rollout. So we're planning to use this personas technology or process, if you will, to enlighten the entire wall-to-wall rollout.
Great. Another question, I think, for either of you. How are the business validations managed efficiently in the case of mobility? For example, with implausible meter readings, can you carry the risk for issuing incorrect bills to customers?
I can tell you what we're doing. I mean, from a Cyclo perspective, there's on-screen edits that essentially we're putting into our design. So anything that can be done in a store and forward way, we're going to be doing. We won't be doing meter reads. We'll be doing field work management. But there's a lot of capability to do on iPad edits, if you will, in the field, so that the data is not coming back without those kinds of required fields, and plus the number has to be between 1 and 5, that kind of stuff.
And I can add to that. So what the Cycle Work Manager actually does is it downloads the metadata, it downloads the configuration data. So the person in the field taking the meter reading has the same capabilities, for example, to say, no, I validated that meter reading, it's correct, and I put a little note in there. So the validation that we run on the mobile device is the same validation that we run in the back end. And the things that we enter they are then visible in the backend in the same way because we have SAP configuration as needed also available in the mobile process.
Great. Question for you, Robert. I know that Mark talked about SAP Utilities Customer Engagement. What does it take to implement that solution?
So there are a couple of things. The solution consists of three pieces. So you have the mobile app, and the mobile app is the standard app that we developed. We actually put it on iTunes, for example, or Google Play, and we deliver that mobile app, and we expect our customers to at least brand it a bit, and then maybe make some changes to the menu or put in their own links to their website. So this is the first part, the mobile app. The second part is install the middleware. So this is part of the SAP mobile platform, and that's more a technical install. And then the third part is installing an SAP add-on in the back end, and that has a little bit of customizing settings. For example, how much history do you want to show to your customers when they look at billing histories? So I think it takes these three pieces, and it doesn't take a long time. Yeah, so we're talking weeks, not months.
And I might have missed it, but I know we have another kind of follow-up question on that. What are the prerequisites for the customer engagement app?
Yeah, so we said we don't want to enforce customers to upgrade to the latest release. So on ECC ISU, EHP4 or higher. So it's EHP4 or higher. And then if you want to use the start or stop service, you also need CRM. If it just runs against ISU, then the start and stop service wouldn't work.
Great. A question over to you, Mark. Did you connect the utilities customer engagement to the OMS for the pilot? And what other systems are you integrating with SAP mobile platform?
So yes, for the pilot, we had a visualization that allowed us to see outages at a high level, not down to the customer level, but like down to the street neighborhood area. And so that data is essentially exposed in a map that's part of our UCE pilot. So you don't even have to log in to see that part. So it's available even before you log in, which is great. We had no really way to expose that information. Matter of fact, we hadn't even rolled it out to our public website yet. So it's nice to be able to see the outages as part of the app. From our perspective, being able to tell customers